Welcome everyone to the Home Service Monopoly podcast. I am so excited because today our guest flew all the way out for our first in-person podcast. We have Jim Allen here.
How's it going?
Good. Welcome to the 411 headquarters.
Yeah, it's awesome. Loved it.
I'm so excited for our chat today because you have so much experience in the roofing space, in marketing, and you're just a wealth of knowledge. You run a podcast, the Roofing Success Podcast.
Yep.
You've interviewed hundreds of people at this point, and you've had so many conversations. You really know the roofing space. And so my goal for today in this interview is to give you guys listening right now all the secrets, all the tips you would need for a marketing strategy that actually works, the things you need to know, the numbers you need to kind of track and give them really, we're going to unpack a lot today.
All right.
Sound
Let's
good?
Unpack it.
All right, cool. So first and foremost, let me just let you do a quick intro for those of you who maybe aren't familiar. Like, who are you? What have you done?
Yep. Jim Allen, I co-founded a company called Roofer Marketers, which was acquired by Job Nimbus a couple of years ago. So we were a full-service digital marketing agency for the roofing industry. And from that, during that time, started the Roofing Success Podcast, which now has over 250 episodes. It started in October of 2019. So I have interviewed. The core of the show is the lessons that contractors have learned and from their wins and losses along the way. So lots of great stories around that in the podcast. I'm also the marketing coach in the Roofing and Solar Reform Alliance with Adam Bensman. And, of course, we met on the digital marketing side in the 7-figure agency. And so that's a little bit about me.
I love it. I'm so excited. You mentioned something about the ups and downs, right? Just talking about the wins and the losses. And I want to actually start there. I think there's some misconceptions when it comes to marketing and what roofers need to know. So what do you think, let's just call it out. What are some of the biggest misconceptions you see when it comes to marketing? Biggest
misconceptions that contractors have is unrealistic expectations. So that's the gap of what they think, what they're hoping to happen, and what is reality. I like to look at marketing in short term, mid-term, and long term. So you have things on the short term that you could turn on quick. Maybe you're buying leads. Door to door, we'll throw that in there. It's more direct sales than marketing. Mm-hmm. But if you want a job today, go knock a door. That's the fastest way to a contract. So then moving into more of a mid-tier strategy would be things like Facebook ads, Google ads. Take some time to get them right and get them figured out. Then you move into the long-term marketing strategies like SEO, brand, all of those things where it may take years to really, really get traction. But one of the wonderful things on the long-term side, if you can wait it out, is that you can't turn it off. Those Facebook ads, those Google ads, they turn off, right? If no one's knocking doors, no one's getting deals. Mm-hmm. A lot of the time, the long-term play, the brand that you establish in your marketplace, becoming what we've coined as the best known roofer, like that, becoming the best known in your area. But that takes a lot of time, takes some money, takes some patience, takes some effort. So I think a lot of times contractors go into marketing and they think, I need leads. Let me do SEO. And that's not the quickest way, right? If you need leads today, get to the door, get to maybe even buying leads from lead aggregators. You're not going to have the best result from that, but you're going to have deals to work.
So someone comes to you and, you've helped so many people be successful with their marketing in the roofing space and home service space, but someone comes to you and they're like, hey, I want to do marketing. What kind of questions do you kind of ask them, or what do you need to know in order to develop a marketing strategy to be successful?
Okay. First thing I'm asking are their goals. So I want to know, where were you last year and where do you want to be next year and where do you want to be in 3 years? So we're sitting here in the middle of the summer in 2025, what'd you do in 2024? Oh, you did 2 million in 2024. Okay. What's your goal for this year? 3 million. Great. Are you on track or off track? We're halfway through the year. Do you think you're going to hit it? No, I'm off track. What I'm trying to establish in that conversation is the gap that you're trying to fill. Mm-hmm. So if you tell me I'm a $2 million company, I was a $2 million company in 2024, and I want to be a $10 million company in 2025, well, that's a big gap to fill. So that's the first thing that I'm thinking about. That's what I need to understand first. The next thing that I need to understand, which I think is very overlooked, is customer acquisition cost and long-term value of a customer. I look at customer acquisition cost. People will say, what's your, like, I think a lot of contractors look at what their ideal customer acquisition cost would be, which is zero every time, right? Like, oh, referral is zero. But you have to understand what your customer acquisition cost range is. So the way I think about that is, on the low end of that range, you're printing money. On the high end of that range, all of your people are employed. You're keeping your best crews employed, and you're buying customers that will refer you in the future, creating the long-term value out of that customer. Or you're getting the neighbors, you're working the neighborhoods. That cost of that initial customer, maybe $2,000. That may be all of your profit for that job. But now you got 3 of the neighbors. Mm-hmm. Now you got a relationship with the insurance agent on that home. Now they're friends and family. They're referring you for 5, 8, 10, the following 8, 10, 12 years, right? That you may get another 10 jobs from that one customer. You don't know. So it's marketing, to me, is buying market share. So you're buying new customers that will refer you in the future.
I love that. That was such a good way to explain it. And you touched on so many gold nuggets, because in my marketing mentorship, I have a private group for our roofing companies. One of the things I went over is some of the most important metrics you need to know. And one of those was the customer acquisition cost and the LTV.
Yeah.
And if you know that, you know what you put in, you can get out.
That's right.
And a lot of people, I also talked about the referral system, because we spend so much money on advertising and marketing to get people in. And everyone forgets, like, yes, you get referrals, but no one actually creates a system to drive more referrals.
Yes.
And they miss that.
There are so many missed opportunities. There's missed opportunities on the front end and the back end of these jobs. So the missed opportunity on the front end, they don't answer the phone. They don't follow up with leads. There's so many missed opportunities in that aspect where we get blamed for as marketers. But you guys didn't answer your phone. So from there, the missed opportunities on the back end, and I think you had John Cenac out recently, who's fantastic in talking about building referrals. John, when he was a sales rep, used to knock until about May or June. And then he would work referrals from that client base the rest of the year. And he was selling a couple $1 million a year. It was his ability to turn one into many. And I think that's the key to a successful roofing business, a successful contracting business, is the best ones turn one into many.
Yeah, that's the key right there, one to many. And that just amplifies the lifetime value and the referral business. So if someone comes to you right now, 2025, we're in Q3 of 2025, someone comes to you and they're like, hey, I need a marketing strategy. I'm a roofing company, doing a couple mil.
Yep.
I want to get to the next level. I need a marketing strategy. Without too much context, what would you tell them? Where would you have them start?
So the first thing I'm going to find is what they have in place already. Like, what are you already doing? So I like to refer to it as the marketing stack. So every channel stacks on top of each other, and the higher your stack, it's the old analogy of how many poles can you have in the water, right? The more poles in the water, the more opportunities you have to catch something. So I'm going to ask them about their stack. Okay, have you wrapped your trucks? Are you doing are you putting yard signs in every yard? Are you doing door hangers in the neighborhoods? Are you doing direct mail to the neighbors of your job? Do you have a website? Do you have a Google business profile? Is it optimized? Do you have good reviews? We're going to go through what you have. And if you don't have something, we need to start with that, right? I don't care how good or how big your ad budget is. If your Google business profile has 3 reviews on it and you have a 3-star review, that ad budget is going to underperform. So we want to build the consistency through all of your channels. Having a great, well-built website optimized for SEO, which for everyone in this time in 2025, optimized for SEO is also the foundational optimization for AI. If you don't know it, that's how it works. You can ask ChatGPT how it determined who you are, and it will tell you. And the list is fundamental local SEO. Like that's what it's using. So we're going to go through that stack. That's what I want to go through first. So it's like, what are you doing? Now, what's the next most logical thing to add? If you are a door-to-door company, and the next logical thing to add might not be Facebook ads, might not be Google ads. Because if your team is used to knocking storms, like a storm hits, Plano, Texas, and your team is up knocking in Plano, Texas, but you have Google ads running around the whole DFW, and there's a lead comes in Fort Worth, which one of your salesmen is going to leave that neighborhood where they know there's storm damage to drive in Metroplex traffic to go and work that lead? Will they be happy? So I need to know your team. I need to know who you guys are as a company. If you generate leads for your sales team, and that's what you do, man, we're just adding the lead channel. We're just adding channels, right? We're just going to stack those channels on top of each other. But if your team can't work these leads, doesn't know how to work a lead, running a Facebook ad lead is going to be different than standing in the middle of a neighborhood that had just got hit by 2-inch hail.
Yeah, definitely. Understanding the differences between the types of lead sources that come in and understanding the team dynamic. So you coach a lot of companies still on what it takes to be successful at marketing.
Yes.
And one of the things we were talking about was metrics.
Yes.
And tell us, like, what's important for someone listening right now that they're like, I don't know if my marketing's underperforming, performing, I don't even know, like, what kind of metrics do they need to understand to be able to make those good decisions for their company?
So I start with, there's, Chuck Tokyo talk about this too, and a lot of sales trainers, and you have your sales qualified lead. And then before that, you have a marketing qualified lead. Those are two different things. Marketing qualified lead, sales qualified lead. So at the very least, you're tracking two metrics. Mm-hmm. How many leads are you getting from your marketing efforts? How many of them are turning into sales? What's the close rate on those, right? So the appointment set rate between your marketing qualified lead and your sales qualified lead turning into a closed sale. Now from a marketing qualified lead, now you're working backwards into your marketing stack, right? You have to be able to track your marketing. Some marketing is more challenging to track. We talk about being the best known roofer and becoming omnipresent. That's multi-channel marketing. In multi-channel marketing, someone sees your yard sign, Googles your company, looks at your reviews, and calls you from your Google business profile. Where are you going to attribute that to? Your yard sign? The door hanger that got put on the door, or the letter that got left? Like, what actually attributed it to? So you have to get some of it you're going to have a gray area on, but call tracking on everything, Google Analytics on everything. You're doing your best to determine where that lead came from. First attribution or last attribution. If you can measure both of those, now you're really getting deep, right? Like, oh, the first attribution, they landed on our website, but then we retargeted them on Facebook, and that's when they called. Mm-hmm. That would be fun. But at a very minimum, you have to know how many leads came from each channel.
Yeah, that's so important. And for those who are wondering, like, just to clarify, first attribution is like the first time somebody saw your business. Last is the time that they actually, like, what caused them to take action.
Yeah.
And so you could really tell the customer story, because we talk so much about they need to see you a couple times, several times, right, before they make a buying decision. It's actually increasing. It's even more, right, to build that trust and authority. And so understanding, oh, well, they actually first saw us last year.
Yeah.
From this source, but didn't pull the trigger until they saw this special offer on this date. And so it could tell you so much. So you need to understand your MQLs, your SQLs, right? You need to understand
fundamental levels. Like, you need to know those at least. Like, and then where are the leads coming from? Because you can't make decisions. You won't know if your Facebook ads are working if you're not tracking those metrics. Mm-hmm. You're not going to know if your Google ads are working, your local service ads. You have to know what is coming out of them, what's creating a return on your investment. But it gets challenging. It's not easy.
Mm-hmm. So talking about return on investment, we hear it all the time, right? When companies come to us in general, like they maybe had a bad experience somewhere else. Like there's a stigma
Most
in
of them have.
marketing. Well, yeah, exactly. And I just want to be like straight up about it.
Yeah.
And so something like they're always asking, like they want like the safety to know they're in, like, what's my guarantee in marketing?
Yeah.
So I want to talk about the guarantee in marketing, like what there actually is versus what there isn't. I personally, my standpoint, when somebody guarantees you something in marketing, unless they're a lead straight up just selling leads,
Yeah.
it's a little bit to say, but if they're trying to guarantee, like none of us own Google, none of us own
That's
Facebook,
right.
but what have you seen like in that realm, like that you
Yeah.
could tell people to?
My favorite guarantee that makes me laugh is I guarantee that if we don't hit this number, we'll work for free. That's my favorite one. I love that one because it's hilarious to me. Because, oh, you want someone that's not performing to just continue to work for you for free? That doesn't sound like a good guarantee for me. Like, oh, you did a really bad job on my roof. Why don't you come back and keep doing a bad job, right? Like that's the worst one to me. Guarantees in marketing are challenging because going back to that MQL, SQL, right? I may be able to guarantee that you will get leads coming in from a Google Ads campaign. And based on your budget and what we know about the location that we're targeting, we may be able to give you a really good estimate of what that cost per lead is. But how good is your team at answering the phone? Do you have a person or people that answer the phone and use the same script every time? And they're actually, there's two sales that need to be made. It's the sale of the appointment and the sale of the job. So that appointment set, your appointment set rate is so impactful on your marketing results. So if a marketing agency says, I guarantee this, what a lot of you have experienced is you got to guarantee that they'll get you 30 leads this month. And they got you 30 leads, but they sucked. But there's two parts to it. They suck. The leads could have sucked, but your team could have sucked answering the phone and setting that appointment also. So when you're thinking about guarantees, we looked at doing guarantees a lot when we owned Roofer Marketers, and we couldn't control what the contractor did. We ran the data. So we worked with a few hundred companies, did their marketing, digital marketing at Roofer Marketers and into Job Nimbus marketing. 40% of the leads that we generated were unanswered or unresponded to. So out of all of the contractors that we were working with that were paying us money and spending their marketing budget, 40% of their leads were not answered or not followed up with.
Wow.
That's insane.
That is so much money left.
So now how do I guarantee that, right? I guarantee that 60% of the work that we do will lead to an effective campaign for you, will lead to an effective return on investment for you. So it's a challenging thing because it goes deeper. And that's what we teach with the marketing control system with Adam Bensman introducing in the Roofing and Solar Reform Alliance. It's not just the lead generation. Like you need to be able to turn that lead into a sale, and you need to look at that MQL to SQL rate. What's the appointment booking rate there? How many of the leads are turning into appointments? That will tell a story. If the leads are quality or not, if you should make adjustments or not. Then how many of those turn into sales? That's your salespeople. So is your salesperson effective in selling to that lead? Because if you can just get a small percentage, if you take a salesperson from a 35% close rate to a 40% close rate, that is an enormous amount of money, right? So, and it allows you to invest in your marketing a lot more. There's an old saying, the person who can pay the most for a customer will win. And so that company that's willing to like go and invest that $2,000 customer acquisition cost because they know their salespeople are going to crush it. They know they're going to sell at a high rate. They know they're going to get referrals. They know they're going to have long-term value off of that customer. Those are the ones that will win every time.
And that's so interesting you said that. There's so much within there to unpack. And we see the same thing, by the way. And the reason I asked the guarantee is unbiased opinion.
Yeah.
You know, we don't even really know like the ins and outs of, we're both in marketing, and so to hear someone else say it, it's not just coming from me that like, hey, listen, I can guarantee you this: if you answer your phone calls and have a follow-up system in place, you're gonna generate more revenue.
And if your team asks for referrals, even better, you're going to get a better ROI.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so that actually leads me to something that's so important, a huge gap. We see it in both of our, we've seen it on both sides, is that answering the phones and, that huge fall off that happens. And I think that's really where touches kind of on the future of where the industry is going. And so I want to get to that in a second. But for those who are like, you talked about like the ones who are willing to pay the most or spend the most to get that client and have the good systems will win. So for someone, I hear this all the time. They come to me and say, oh, well, someone told me that so-and-so spends X amount on Google, so I shouldn't even bother, right? Like, I'm sure you've heard it before, but so to someone who's a small guy, small person, smaller in the space, and they're thinking the same thing, what would you tell them?
Man, that's a real challenge. We had a company that we worked with that got acquired by private equity. Pre-private equity, they had, the year before they got acquired, they had a $700,000 or $800,000 marketing budget. So not a small marketing budget. The year after they got acquired, the private equity firm gave them a $6 million marketing budget.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Hit me up if you have a budget. I'm trying to work with you.
But it's a real challenge in the industry. It's like, how does the small company survive, right? How do you compete with that type of budget? And it's going to continue to be more and more challenging. But if you get efficient at what you do, maybe you won't be able to. Google Ads is always going to be the most expensive way to generate a customer in the Google ecosystem, right? Or on the digital ecosystem currently, from my experience. And so, man, you may not be able to compete there, but you can compete in other places, local services ads, all the other things. So just as we went back to metrics, now that after you build your stack, right? After you build your stack and you have all these things going, now you can go back and really measure what's effective and not. And now you can tweak each one, tweaking your Facebook ads, tweaking your social media content, tweaking your brand, tweaking your Google ads, and finding ways of efficiency there. But as a smaller contractor, you're going to have a harder time. But there is a customer avatar. There is a buyer that would rather deal with you. So that's something to think about into, if you're not trying to grow into the $30, $50 million company, if you want to stay that $2, $4, $6 million company, make a great living. I have a neighbor who does fantastic. They're not trying to grow into a huge company, but it's a great business. They make great money. There's nothing wrong with that, right? They don't have to become the best of everything or the best known for them, but it's going to be harder to compete. But Google will always take your money. Google will always take their money. Facebook will always take your money. Facebook will always take their money. SEO is going to be SEO. AI SEO will be AI SEO or AI EO, whatever you want to call it now, like that's all going to take effort. But you have to understand what you want out of your business first. Like, do you want to be a $10 million company? And then do you want to make the investment to compete against the bigger dollars? What markets are you in? I've interviewed multiple people on my podcast. Terry Gualty is one of them. Integrity Roofing and Siding they're in Illinois, some of Kentucky, and into Tennessee, but this just rural area. And I think if I remember right, it was like they were doing about 15 million. In one of the town that they were based out of, they had over 250 Google reviews. The population of that town was 50 people. But it was because they brought professionalism to a rural area that was not used to professionalism. I've interviewed a few of these companies that they're not trying to compete in the big markets head to head with all the big money. They just move slightly out of town and they're going into these small areas who are used to calling Chuck in a truck because Chuck lives down the street and that's who they call. And Chuck never calls them back. We were talking about my lake place in northern Minnesota. I called someone I wanted a gutter quote. So I called the gutter company that's in the town closest to us, left a voicemail, waited a week or so. I was back in the Twin Cities at my house. We had just gotten our roof and gutters done. Talked to the gutter guy there. I was like, hey, you want to go up to my place and do my gutters there? You could stay at the cabin, like, hang out up there. It's like, oh yeah, I'll drive up there. He drove up there, did my gutters, drove back to Minneapolis, cashed the check. It was out of my bank account before the other contractor called me back. There's a lack of, like, where can you fill a gap that other people are not? Not everyone wants to buy from the big company. So I think that's something that you can count on forever, is that knowing your customer, getting your marketing message correct to that customer, that, hey, there's a lot of big companies in town. You're just a number to them. We'll work with you more, on a much more intimate basis and take care of you on a much higher level, right? Because we're this. So I think that even if you don't have the budgets, understanding who you're selling to, that your customer, and talk to them.
Yeah, definitely. So there's so much when it comes to marketing, like, it's a system, like you said. And if there's holes in that system, you're not going to see it through. But you also have to determine what your end game is, because there's companies who come in, they're like, hey, listen, we want to do, $40 million in revenue, 30 million. We've helped people in those numbers. Yeah. But the thing is, that's not for everybody. Some people rather be a $5 million company with X percent of profit than a $20 million company and their profit shrinks. So you have to really determine your end goal and reverse engineer it. But one thing that stays consistent is the system. And so for the little guys who are like, well, I can't spend as much as the big guys, there is still opportunity. If you look and just do some basic market research in the markets you serve, you'll see the percent of actual untapped jobs that are still there waiting for you. And just so everyone else knows, we then have the opposite, where people come to us and they're the big guys and they're like worried about the new guys because the new guys invested in their brand.
That's right.
And I think branding is one of the things I'm also seeing. Like, if you can build a brand, you will build longevity.
Yeah.
And then what happens is the old school guys, the bigger companies, they're actually worried about you.
That's right.
And so it kind of goes both ways, but there's still a market for both, and you have to have your unique selling proposition.
Yeah, for sure. There's it's amazing how many, and I think you guys did Planet Roof. I think you did the branding for Planet Roof, Travis. And I remember him saying that it was like the first 6 months, like, people started, I think he wrapped maybe 2-3 trucks or something like that. And all of a sudden people were like, I see you everywhere. But it happens all the time. Like, it happens all the time that when you get a more unique brand, when those trucks are driving around the neighborhoods, all of a sudden it's like, oh wow, you may not be the biggest, but you may just be, the 5 mile famous, right? You may just be like in that one suburb of your area. You're always working that suburb of your town, and everyone there sees your brand all the time. And you're at the Little League games, and you're at right? Like, there's so many of the other things that go along with it. And business is relationships. So I think that's what a lot of people forget too, especially in the age of digital marketing, is you need to establish relationships and build those relationships. So that long-term value comes from that, not the next Facebook lead, not the next Google lead. So.
Yeah, we actually, funny story really quick. We have someone, we've built a lot of brands. You're right, Planet Roof is one of them, but we've created logos. Some we do full brand, some we just do it just depends. But, and it's always consistent. But we had a couple people, but one guy in particular that came to me, he's like, yeah, people have been telling me they love our brand. They've been seeing us for years. He's like, this is my first year in business. And so that's what the instant trust, credibility, authority that a brand can build. So I think that's something that people really need to take into as something that can differentiate them from other people, and really like play on that.
Yeah. So you have a brand, whether you know it or not. So if you pull up to a house in a rusty Ford F-150 with a magnet slapped on the side, your brand is, you can negotiate with me. If you pull up in a professional truck with a professional logo, professional shirts, professional, everything, you your brand is that. And so you have a brand whether you know it or not. So be careful.
Yeah, be careful what
Be
you want to
careful.
convey, definitely. So we talked about a couple of different things that are so important, just, from metrics to, what people should know and, branding. And I want to talk about we started talking about one of the biggest gaps we both see, right? And we come from different, we have different clientele in terms of the companies, but one thing we both seen that I just realized is that 40% drop off in people not answering the phones, not following up. And I think there's something that's going to fill that gap very, very well. And that's moving into the space of AI. Which I think is one of the most exciting opportunities in the roofing space. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about someone right now who's having those problems, because most people who are listening to this do at any size. They have that problem, whether they just don't have the capacity, the team, the processes. What are you doing right now with AI? What do you think is most exciting on how companies can leverage that?
So I launched a company called Power Up Agents. So we have about 13 roofers on the beta right now. So what we're doing is building AI, voice AI through the entire customer journey and employee journey. So what we're working on is using voice AI to interact with the data that you already have. That could be an initial phone call into your business to book an appointment, all the way through. It could be someone calling to say, or the AI calling to say, hey, we're going to be out at your house tomorrow. Make sure that your cars are out of the way. Don't be on, if you have any Zoom calls scheduled, you're going to have a problem, put your pets away, all the way through towards the end of the customer journey and asking for the referrals and doing surveys. How did our team do? How did that do? So the entire customer journey, then also the employee journey, where your crews can call in and say, hey, where am I supposed to be tomorrow? What's the address? All of those types of things in the employee journey too. So what I see in that is going to fill the gap. Like, technology is going to fill the gap. There's some good and bad things about that, right? A lot of people are like, I don't want to do that. I don't want AI in my, that doesn't sound perfect. It's not, it will. It's really getting close. And I know you guys are doing it too in the voice answering service aspect of it, to make sure that they get that phone call answered. If you could close that gap, if you could just have a phone call with 40% more people, or follow up with 40%, that 40%, all of your marketing budgetary issues go away, right? Like, they just go away, they disappear, because you will squeeze more juice out of your marketing dollars. So AI has come a long way. It's fantastic. If you're not using it in your business, get a ChatGPT account and start learning how to prompt. It's changing the game. I know contractors in the RSRA that have built estimating tools in AI now, follow-up tools, you could build it's so crazy what AI can do. So the future is definitely going to be there. Like, it's all going that direction. Unfortunately, you can't stop it at this point. Too late.
I think now is one of the greatest opportunities. It's like some people miss, a couple of us we missed the TikTok trend, right? Like,
that's
TikTok blew up and we're like, TikTok, that's silly. That's for young people, or whatever trend it was at the time. Like, even before, like, YouTube was one, from years ago that some of us missed, right? And so, like, this is the next one. It's like, whether your personal opinion on it doesn't matter, you need to understand how to use these tools to flow your business, or the next person will.
Here's a good way to think about that. Gary Vaynerchuk talks about this. It's attention arbitrage, right? So when TikTok first blew up, if you were on TikTok, you had an arbitrage because there weren't as many creators there. So the algorithm had to show the content to someone. And so it would show your content more often because you were there early. YouTube, the same way. Like, all of these platforms, Facebook, Instagram, all of them had an arbitrage opportunity where you had you had an unfair advantage. What I believe is happening right now with AI is labor arbitrage. So right now, you need that office person to answer the phone, and they have a specific hourly rate or yearly salary. As AI gets more and more effective, that person won't have to be doing those tasks. They can be doing other tasks, more high value tasks. So as it takes that away, currently, not everyone is using AI voice. So right now, there's an arbitrage opportunity. But as more and more companies start to use it and implement AI, that gap goes away. And so don't miss out on the arbitrage opportunity, is if that's a good way to put it for you guys. Like right now is the time where you are getting a benefit versus your competitor by using it.
Yeah, 100%. And something you mentioned, I love how you explain that, because it's basically the following. And this is, we know this at our finest. If you call to get a service from someone and that person doesn't answer, what do? You call the next person. And it's almost like a game of whoever answers gets the appointment. So I have people who say, listen, I'm just not ready to use AI. I just don't feel comfortable. Then freaking say it's an AI booking system.
That's right.
But still, what's better, sending them to voicemail or having an automated system that could actually book them right on your calendar?
That's right.
And so like there's different ways to achieve it and not like have that drop off. And you'll see an ROI from doing that. You're going to see an increase in booked appointments by taking advantage of these tools.
Yeah. Say that like you missed it. We're just using the broad numbers here, everyone. So there's 40% of missed leads. What if 75% of people don't want to deal with AI? So out of that 40%, you only get 10% more leads. Dang, that's terrible, right? Like there's more closed jobs in your business. So the opportunity is there and it will only continue to get better. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
So
I love that. So what do you think the first thing, like there's so many, I think people are overwhelmed when it comes to AI because there's so much, and especially like, home service companies in general, they're good at what they're good at, which is running their home service business, right? So it's like, where should someone start so they're not overwhelmed? Like, is there a couple of most important things that they should start with when they're diving into like what AI they could use to optimize their business?
Yeah. I mean, I have a couple of good episodes on AI, one with Jonathan Mast, who you might know. Like learning how to prompt is probably the most important thing. So if you just learn how to use prompts, and you can actually go into ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or Grok and ask and tell it to teach you how to prompt. It will like that. It's like, that's how intuitive it is. And so starting there, but then from a business perspective, I'm always looking at value and lift. So how much value would it add to your business, and what's the lift that it will take to implement? So that upfront answering is probably the easiest, that provides the most value with the least amount of lift from a revenue perspective. As you go down the customer journey and into the employee journey, a lot of times there's more lift because you have to have it maybe reading your SOPs and teaching your team on things, right? We have one that we're building where it's like sales practice for sales reps, right? They can practice with the AI voice and do mock scenarios. And so those are that's a little bit more lift because we have to get your scripting right and how you want them trained. And that's much more complex. So it's a higher lift. The value of it is there, but that's how I would look at the implementation of AI in your business, is looking at the value and how much effort it's going to take to implement. The easy ones, you're going to find in estimating, you're going to find in the voice AI up front, the receptionist is the easiest, most valuable lift that you can do. I've seen a couple of contractors that are using AI to read insurance policies and give feedback when they're meeting adjusters and do it. Like, so there's other really valuable things that if you can have a better conversation with an adjuster based on what you're getting there, like, and get that claim approved, that's a huge value also. So I would look at the value that AI implementation will do, and then what it will take to implement it. And I always do the most value and least effort first, and just knock them off the list.
Very cool. Yeah, there's so much. It's such a fun time to build a business, all of these AI initiatives that you can do. So there's just so much when it comes to like marketing as a whole. And so some people, they're not sure, like, should they hire someone in-house? Should they work with an agency? What would you recommend to a company, unbiased recommendation? Like, what do you kind of recommend versus like when they should bring someone in-house versus like if it makes more sense to work with an agency and a partner?
So I think the first marketing person that you hire in-house is to do social media. Like that, in my opinion, is the best return on investment for that person. It's really hard. It is you guys know this. We know this from running an agency too. Like we had a Google Ads team. We had a Facebook ads team. We had an SEO team, a web dev team. Like this it wasn't one person doing all of these things. And I promise you, a really good Facebook media buyer may not know how to run Google ads. So I feel like the biggest value you get from hiring a marketing person in-house, it's someone that works on that organic social media. They're showcasing your brand. They're helping you build your presence on social media. And then they become the manager of, if you decide to use an agency, they are the connector between, right? They know the metrics and express the metrics that you're trying to achieve. Express your goals to the agency that you're working with, because if you don't have clear goals and the agency doesn't know your clear goals, you're misaligned right off the bat. So making sure that that person is saying, okay, we closed $1.5 million last month. You know, we wanted to close 1.6. Like, let's look at our numbers. Where do we need to increase budget, decrease budget? Like, where can we shift budget? Like that person can manage, but they can't do all of the tasks. It's way too complicated. Google Ads is a very complicated thing to run. And I promise you, you stick someone who knows how to run social media and tell them run Google Ads for you, you're going to find out how expensive that person is. So that's what I would, from a marketing perspective, I want someone who's going to showcase our brand and the authenticity of our team to our community, and then help manage the relationships and the vendors that we use for the other things.
So at what size do you think you need to be to actually bring in that person in-house? We have a lot of people, we've seen different things happen different ways. Sometimes they'll work with the agency first, and as we develop and they're growing, we're like, hey, you need that in-house content person. Sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes they already have someone in-house, they come to us, they're like, hey, we need help, because we call it a unicorn, someone who could like do it all. It's like impossible to find. But what size do you think people need to be at to start making those decisions?
I mean, you could start with a part-time person very early on. Like there are people that will work for you for 5 hours a week or 10 hours a week. You don't have to start with a full-time $60,000 a year employee. Like you can scale this up as you go. Hey, hire a videographer that can do social media content with you to come out once a month. Stop by, go to a couple of builds that you're doing, film a bunch of content, and just do that once a month, a couple $100. You know, maybe $500, $1,000. Now you're building that, that engine. There are great tools for social media scheduling right now. I'm sure you guys use some stuff. We use different things that, like, now that you have that content, now someone just has to enter it in and put it when it goes out. Maybe write some copy. You don't even have to write the copy, because ChatGPT will write the copy for you if you're, so like you can really scale this up. But I don't know what like the size of company that needs like a full-time marketing manager. It depends on their team and who's, what roles they have and who's managing what. I mean, we've worked with companies that were over 8 figures and they didn't have someone dedicated to being a marketing manager. So
yeah, we've kind of mapped it out. We talk about it, but I would say, like, if I had to generally speak, I think you could definitely achieve that 5 million mark without having that in-person manager just yet, by just like having that outsourced team, and then it just really makes sense on where the goals are and what you need. But getting that content, I think, is a key. Whether it's yourself doing it, someone part-time, you have the luxury to have someone full-time. Content is still key. It builds the brand. And I even, like, we use a lot of, in general, like, we help a lot of roofing companies now outsource teams and find like VAs and things like that, who they can help actually, edit that content and just do things at scale.
Yeah, that's another great opportunity is using VAs for some task-based things like that. Like we shot a bunch of video content, go edit it, create a bunch of social posts out of it. And now I think that there's definitely ways to leverage that for sure. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. When I have roofing companies or owners come to me and they're like, I'm just trying to figure out how to set up this LSA. I'm like, dude, why are you doing that?
Why are you doing that?
Like,
Yeah.
So you took 4 hours. This is a real call. 4 hours to try to figure out LSA. You're still stuck. You had to call Google, which they give you terrible advice. Sorry. But, and like, I was like, how many appointments could you have done in that 4 hours?
Yeah.
Like, and he's like, oh yeah, I probably could have got a couple appointments. I was like, so you could have made a sale and resulted in X amount of revenue for your company. And instead you're trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
That if you're doing that, that is a perfect time when you need to work with a team or figure out someone to help you do that. You should not be doing things that are not the most, they're important, but not like.
Yeah. You have to know your hourly rate. I think that's Dan Martell, Buy Back Your Time stuff. Like, you know, knowing your hourly rate and being like, look, my time is worth more spent over here. I can make $250 an hour going out selling, or I could set up this LSA account.
Yeah, you got to know what your time's worth and what's actually going to drive the company versus delegating to other people you can trust. So I want to kind of wrap on a couple of key things here. So we talked so many different great pieces of advice, channels, talking about, you know, the big budgets versus the little budgets, the branding, AI and how that's going to make an impact. If you had to right now at this point say, hey, which marketing channel do you think, just to give like gives the best ROI for roofing right now?
I think it's still LSAs. It's amazing. I know the cost has gone up and it's gotten a lot more competitive, but that from the sense that I get in the industry is that's where the best, the most qualified, best buying intent calls come from. Like people that are calling through LSAs, they want the appointment, they're looking to buy, they're looking for a good company to work with, they're in buy mode. You're not convincing them. So I would still say that.
Yeah. Definitely. Oh, on Google for sure as well. Yeah. It's the lowest cost per lead. Local service ad is something everyone who's listening, you should have this set up and it should be generating you some form of business. Yeah. And if it's not, like, you need, that's one thing you need to look at right away. A huge missed opportunity. So something I like to do with people is a little game called This or That. Okay. I'm going to give you two different, I'm just going to shoot out two things and you have to say which one. You can only pick one of the two. So we're going to do roofing, marketing, edition of This or That. You ready?
Right, go.
All right. SEO or paid ads?
SEO.
Facebook or Google ads?
Google ads.
Door knocking or digital leads?
Door knocking.
Local service ads or PPC?
LSAs, local service ads.
Buying leads or paying for marketing?
Paying for marketing.
Cost per lead or cost per acquisition?
Cost per acquisition.
Inbound leads or outbound prospecting?
Man, I like inbound leads, but outbound prospecting is good too. I said door to door earlier, and then I'm saying inbound leads. I love them both. I love it all.
If you had to pick one.
If I had to pick one, it's inbound leads for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Website redesign first or ads first?
Ads first, because landing pages will be built with the new design.
Okay. Free quotes, like free estimates, things like that, or an actual call to action?
You need an actual calls to action. Yeah, for sure.
Google reviews or Facebook reviews?
Google reviews. Facebook reviews don't matter.
Before and after photos or video testimonials?
Video testimonials.
In-house marketing or outsource agency?
Outsource it.
Branded truck wraps or yard signs?
I mean, you need both, but I would do yard signs over truck wraps.
Okay. Weekly social post or a monthly newsletter?
Both of them are not enough. I like to be spammy in the inbox and have like 50 emails or 500 social posts a day, but I would choose the social post.
Okay. Geo-targeting ads around a neighborhood or physically canvassing?
Physically canvassing.
Email marketing or text marketing?
Text.
Lead quality or lead quantity?
Quality.
Single channel focus or multi-channel marketing?
Best known roofer, omnipresence, multi-channel.
All right. You made it.
All right.
You made it through.
Cool.
So thank you guys for everyone who's listening. I want to wrap like just give some motivation, someone who's stuck right now. They don't know next steps marketing. Like what would you recommend for them to do?
Yeah, there's so much great information out there. Your podcast, my podcast, go to Adam Bensman's YouTube channel, there's so many things on YouTube and like start learning. If you don't have an understanding of what you're getting yourself into, you're going to make bad decisions. So get out there, learn enough Learn enough. Like, be the GC of your own marketing. You don't put the nails on. You don't hammer nails, right? Like, you're not up there on the roof doing that, but you know enough to hire good subcontractors. So that's what you need to do, is have enough knowledge about your marketing and your metrics that you need to be watching to hire the best team around you.
I love it. And just even if you can hammer the nails, doesn't mean you should.
That's right.
So where can anyone find you who's looking to connect and just learn more about what you do and the cool initiatives?
Roofing Success Podcast on all channels, and Roofing and Solar Reform Alliance.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, flying all the way out to come to this podcast. And whatever you guys do when it comes to marketing, don't do nothing. Thank you guys so much.